The night a hotel outshined an empire, it happened quietly, behind velvet curtains and locked doors. A single building became more powerful than the nation surrounding it, and almost no one noticed until it was too late. To understand how a hotel could outshine an empire, we have to return to a moment when power was shifting hands. The world was no longer ruled only by borders, armies, or flags. Influence was beginning to move into private rooms, whispered conversations, and places where the most important people could disappear without being seen. Hotels were no longer just places to sleep. They became neutral ground, safe ground, invisible ground. As global travel expanded and wealth concentrated, a new problem emerged. Leaders, financiers, and power brokers needed spaces beyond government buildings. They needed privacy without isolation, luxury without visibility, and control without appearing to hold it. And the most successful hotel owners understood this before anyone else did. At first, this hotel was designed to impress. Its architecture signaled confidence. Its service promised discretion. Its location offered something rare: distance from public eyes, but proximity to global influence. Guests arrived believing they were simply buying comfort. What they were really buying was insulation from the world. The first signs were subtle. High-level meetings moved off official calendars. Negotiations happened over late dinners instead of conference tables. Deals were signed in suites that never appeared in photographs. The hotel staff learned to remember faces, not names. Questions were replaced by silence, and silence became the most valuable service offered. Then came the night everything changed. A gathering unlike any before it unfolded behind closed doors. Not a summit, not a ceremony, just powerful individuals choosing this place over embassies, palaces, or capitals. In that choice was a message. The hotel had become more relevant than the state around it. From that moment on, decisions made inside these walls rippled outward. Markets shifted, alliances bent. Entire industries felt the consequences of conversations no historian would ever fully document. The building itself remained still elegant, almost indifferent, but within it, an empire of influence was being quietly assembled. And this was only the beginning. What followed that night was not loud or dramatic. There were no headlines, no speeches, no public declarations. Instead, the hotel began to change in ways only insiders could sense. Reservations became harder to secure, even when rooms appeared available. Entire floors would vanish from booking systems without explanation. Guests noticed unfamiliar security measures, subtle but precise, woven seamlessly into the experience. The staff was retrained not in service, but in awareness. They learned when not to look, when not to listen, when to forget what they had seen moments earlier. Loyalty mattered more than experience. Discretion mattered more than perfection. The hotel was no longer just hosting people. It was managing risk. Inside the suites, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations slowed down. Voices dropped. Decisions were no longer rushed. This hotel offered something rare in an accelerating world: time without pressure. Here, powerful people could think without interruption. They could test ideas without consequences. They could fail privately before succeeding publicly. The reveal came gradually. Certain outcomes began to trace back to this location. A merger announced months later mirrored a quiet dinner conversation, recalled by a single witness. A sudden policy shift aligned perfectly with a meeting no one admitted attending. Patterns formed, then disappeared, then formed again. The hotel was never mentioned. It never needed to be. What made this place different was not extravagance. It was control. Control over space. Control over access. Control over who crossed paths and who never did. The layout encouraged chance encounters that were never accidental. The bar placed rivals within earshot. The private elevators ensured others never met at all. Guests believed they were choosing privacy. In reality, privacy was being curated for them. The hotel decided who shared walls, who shared floors, and who shared silence. Influence was no longer exercised through force or money alone. It flowed through proximity. As this reputation spread, something remarkable happened. Governments began adjusting their behavior around the hotel schedule. Flights were rerouted. Security perimeters shifted outward. Entire cities adapted to accommodate what was happening inside one building. The hotel did not ask for this power. It simply allowed others to depend on it. And with dependence came inevitability. This was no longer a destination. It was an axis, and everything else began to rotate around it. As the hotel's influence deepened, the illusion of neutrality began to crack. What once felt like a passive backdrop was now actively shaping outcomes. People did not just arrive here to rest. They arrived to position themselves. Every entrance, every corridor, every shared space became part of a silent choreography. The conflict emerged slowly, almost invisibly. Power thrives on imbalance, and this hotel had perfected it. Some guests arrived knowing exactly why they were there. Others believed they were simply escaping the noise of the world. The difference mattered. Those who understood the game used the hotel as a lever. Those who did not became pieces on the board. Tension built beneath the polished surfaces. Rival executives found themselves booked on the same floor, forced into politeness at mass competition. Political figures crossed paths with financiers whose interests quietly opposed their public positions. No confrontation occurred. None was needed. The pressure lived in proximity, in shared air, in awareness of who might be listening. Behind the scenes, the hotel's management faced its own dilemma. Influence attracts scrutiny. Too much visibility would shatter the illusion. Too much secrecy would invite suspicion. The balance had to be perfect. Staff rotations were tightened. Internal information was fragmented. No one saw the whole picture. Everyone knew only what they needed. But control always invites resistance. Rumors began circulating in diplomatic circles. Whispers of deals shaped in private suites. Of futures altered without consent. Some governments grew uneasy. Others leaned in closer, hoping to benefit. The hotel stood unmoved, continuing to offer comfort, discretion, and silence, while the world argued around it. The real conflict was not between nations or corporations. It was between visibility and power, between public authority and private influence. This hotel existed in the space between those forces, absorbing tension like a shockwave. Every major decision that passed through its walls left a residue, subtle but lasting. Guests could feel it, even if they could not name it. Something heavier in the air, a sense that choices made here carried more weight than choices made anywhere else. The building had become a pressure chamber for the future, and the pressure was nearing its breaking point. The breaking point did not arrive as a scandal. It arrived as a realization. The most powerful decisions of that era were no longer made in capitals. They were made in quiet rooms, far from flags and cameras. This hotel had not seized power. Power had simply chosen to gather here. The climax was subtle but decisive. A single week changed everything. Multiple delegations arrived separately. No announcements were made. No schedules overlapped publicly. Yet when they left, the world shifted in visible ways. Markets reacted first, then alliances adjusted. Policies softened or hardened without clear explanation. Observers searched for causes in speeches and documents. They never looked at the building that made those outcomes possible. The hotel had mastered something no empire ever could. It controlled environment without appearing to rule it. It shaped outcomes without leaving fingerprints. Its greatest strength was not secrecy, but plausibility. Nothing illegal occurred. Nothing official happened. And yet, everything changed. Eventually, the attention faded. Power moved on, as it always does. New locations rose. New centers formed. But the blueprint remained. This hotel proved a permanent truth. In the modern world, influence does not need territory. It needs comfort. It needs discretion. It needs places where decisions feel private, even when they affect millions. Today, luxury hotels around the world follow this model. They sell more than views or service. They sell insulation from consequence. And in doing so, they quietly shape the future again and again. What happened here is not a closed chapter. It is a pattern that keeps repeating. Whenever power needs a place to hide in plain sight, it looks for a hotel that understands silence. The